Rock Beyond 2040, and welcome to a very special edition of the Progressive Rock and Metal album review series. And today I'm going to be taking a look at the short and amazing catalogue from one of the finest bands to ever burst onto the scene in the progressive metal genre. And this band features various members of Dream Theater and King Crimson. And even though this band, in their short existence, put out very few albums, anytime these guys got together, there was always great expectations, high anticipation, and a level of buzz from fans in regards to what the band's next move was going to be. And this band, quite frankly, in my opinion, need no introduction whatsoever. I am talking about, of course, the one and only progressive metal supergroup Liquid Tension Experiment. So, Liquid Tension Experiments was formed in 1997 by Dream Theater drummer Mike Portnoy, and this project came together when Magna Carta approached Portnoy in the hopes of putting together a brand new band and putting out a studio album. And the label gave Portnoy the green light to do whatever he wanted and find various musicians he wanted to work with in the hopes of putting together this supergroup. So Portnoy's first initial choices were, of course, bassist Billy Sheehan and keyboardist Jens Johansson from Yngwie Malmsteen. But unfortunately, they couldn't make the scheduling, and there was all conflicts in terms of availability. So those two were scrubbed off the list. Portnoy's first choice to invite to play keyboards for this new band was, of course, Jordan Rudess. Now, Jordan Rudess was approached to join Dream Theater back in 1994 when original keyboardist and founding member Kevin Moore had left the band. But Jordan Rudess decided at that time that the timing wasn't right because he felt that Dream Theater didn't have any stability, and he opted to play with Steve Morse and the Dixie Dregs instead. Now, after much begging and pleading, Jordan Rudess was approached to hook up with Portnoy to play in this new band, and Jordan Rudess accepted the offer, and the keyboard position was filled. Now came who was going to play bass and guitar. For guitars, the original choices were going to be Steve Morse from Dixie Dregs and Kansas, and of course he was playing with Deep Purple at the time, and old friend Jim Matheos from Fate's Warning. But unfortunately, both guitarists were not available. So Portnoy then decided to approach his friend and Dream Theater bandmate, guitarist John Petrucci, to join this project, even though Portnoy wanted this project to be completely separate from Dream Theater. So, in its place, we have drummer Mike Portnoy, guitarist John Petrucci, and keyboardist Jordan Rudess. Now, all that was left was who was going to play bass. And Mike Portnoy decided that the natural choice to play bass was, of course, the one and only Tony Levin, best known for his long associations with King Crimson and Peter Gabriel. And thus, this led to the birth of Liquid Tension Experiment, a progressive metal supergroup. So we have Mike Portnoy, Jordan Rudess, John Petrucci, and Tony Levin, a true supergroup. Now, what makes Liquid Tension Experiment very different to Dream Theater is Liquid Tension Experiment is primarily instrumental, so there's no vocals, and a lot of their music concentrates on improvisation, jamming, and long extended soloing. Now, whereas Dream Theater, while they're known for their incredible musicianship, and of course, it's very vocal driven with singer James LeBrie. With Liquid Tension Experiments, just like in the name, it's very experimental. So at times they can be very heavy, at times they can be very laid back, and there are even moments where the music is almost leaning towards jazz fusion. But as I said, it's very instrumental driven, and you could kind of look at Liquid Tension Experiment as an instrumental dream theater if you're looking at who the guys are in the band. And of course, at the time when this band was formed, Jordan Rudess wasn't even part of Dream Theater. The keyboardist for Dream Theater at the time was, of course, Derek Sherinian. So this made both bands completely separate from each other. And for my money, Liquid Tension Experiment is a very exciting band. You know, they can go anywhere they want, and there's even moments of comedic, there's lots of seriousness. It's just a great fun band. And when you hear Liquid Tension Experiments, you know straight away it's them. And sometimes you can almost mistaken them to sound like Dream Theater, which is, of course, no surprise because you've got, at that time anyway, two founding members of the band. And of course, shortly after, Jordan Rudess would join Dream Theater full time as their keyboardist after replacing Derek Sherinian. And he's been in the band ever since. He's been playing with Dream Theater for well over 20 plus years now already. But at the time, this was intended to be nothing more than just a one off project. And whenever Dream Theater were not on the road or not in the studio, Portnoy, Rudess, and Petrucci would often get together with Levin, maybe for a jam or for a one off show. And over the course of time, Liquid Tension Experiment slowly evolved into its own entity and existed alongside Dream Theater for a number of years. So, for today's special edition, I am going to be discussing Liquid Tension Experiment's catalogue of albums, which is a total of 3 studio recordings. And as always, I am going to be talking about each album individually, and I'll be choosing which one I think is the best one. Not an easy challenge, as we've only got 3 studio albums. There are no bad albums in this catalogue, all 3 are excellent, and they're pretty much like chapters. You know, there's no real concept to these 3 albums. They're all pretty much a continuation of the other, but there's some incredible music, some unbelievable playing, and instrumentally, they just absolutely rock. You know, it's kind of like a combination of progressive metal and jazz fusion all rolled into one with lots of improvisation and lots of jamming. And I love it, just absolutely love it. No bad album whatsoever. And it's tough because any of these albums could be a number one or an all time favourite because even though this is a trilogy, it's incredibly strong. And when you've got 4 heavyweights like Mike Portnoy, John Petrucci, Jordan Rudess, and Tony Levin all in one band, you have truly got a power quartet for the ages. All 4 musicians on top form, and it's just fantastic. They're a great band, and the music is just top notch, almost to perfection. So we're going to start with the first album, and this one came out in 1988, and this one is called Liquid Tension Experiment. So this is the band's first album, which is self-titled, and you could call this Liquid Tension Experiment 1, and it's fantastic. It's Dream Theater on steroids, but without vocals. As I said earlier, instrumental Dream Theater, just a really great album. Very hard hitting, very muscular, very jammy, lots of improvisation, you name it. This is heavyweight stuff, but different. When you hear Liquid Tension Experiment, at first you would mistaken them for Dream Theater, but when you listen closely, it's very different. Obviously, Portnoy and Petrucci, they bring more of the metal side of things to the music. Rudess brings more of a classical approach to the music, and Levin brings more of the jazzier side of things to the music. And when you have all four musicians together, it's just magic. Portnoy and Levin make a very muscular rhythm section, and you've got Levin switching between acoustic bass, electric bass, and Chapman stick. He's doing all sorts of crazy things. And then in the front line, you've got Petrucci's guitars and Rudess's keyboards. Now, what I like about Rudess's keyboard playing, which is very similar to Derek Sherinian, but both completely different beasts, is Jordan Rudess as a keyboard player. When you hear him, at first you think, oh, there's another guitarist, but no, it's actually his keyboard playing. And the way he takes on the role of a second guitarist for his keyboards, and he's up there, soloing and trading licks and riffs with Petrucci. It's just incredible. And sometimes, more often than not, I thought, is there another guitarist in the band? Where's Jordan Rudess? But he's right there shredding it up. And he's not what you would call your traditional keyboard player. He's not just the guy in the background playing a little bit of chords and creating soundscapes. He can be a badass too when he needs to be. And when you've got a power quartet like these guys, you know you're going to get something really special. So, lots of the music is written and composed by all four musicians. So, we've got the opener, which is Paradigm Shift, which is just nearly 9 minutes long. Absolutely fantastic. Then we got Osmosis, which is brilliant. Kindred Spirits is great. The Stretch is good. Freedom of Speech is great. Chris and Kevin's Excellent Adventure, which is obviously a nod to the iconic movie Bill and Ted's Most Excellent Adventure. State of Grace is great. Universal Mind is great. And then we've got the big 28-minute epic, which is spread out of multiple tracks, which is 3 minute warning. And I like how there's even a little warning underneath. It says, caution, 3 minute warning is not for the musically faint hearted, impatient, or critics of extreme self indulgence. If you fall into any of the above categories, please hit the stop button on your CD player after track 8. Just brilliant stuff. Obviously, there's a little Portnoy joke in there somewhere, but great album, very enjoyable, really heavy, just really heavy stuff, but great music, just absolutely great music. Everyone's at the top of their game, playing in blinding form, no weak links whatsoever, and you can hear elements of King Crimson from Levin's bass playing, and you can hear lots of Dream Theater influences, of course, from Portnoy and Petrucci. Just really tremendous stuff, in my opinion. And the standout tracks for me are Paradigm Shift, Freedom of Speech, State of Grace, Universal Mind, and the big 28-minute epic 3 minute warning. Great debut album. Absolutely loved it. Just really packs a punch. And as I said, if you like Dream Theater, if you're a fan of that band, definitely check out Liquid Tension Experiment and their first album. Just really good. So there you have it. Liquid Tension Experiment 1, the band's self-titled album. Fantastic stuff. Really enjoyable. Love it. So we move on to the next album, and this one came out in 1999, and this one is called Liquid Tension Experiment 2. So this is essentially a continuation of the first album, and it's equally as brilliant. And it's more a case of the same sort of thing. There's not really much different from these albums, but the playing is, of course, excellent. The musicianship is top notch. Portnoy is bashing the hell out of the drums like it owes him money. Petrucci is shredding it up on the guitar to the point where you almost think the room's going to catch fire. Rudess is right up there, providing lots of great soundscapes and shredding it up alongside the guitars. And then you've got Levin, who is a very smooth bass player. He can rock it out too, but he brings such a laid back approach with his bass playing and really knows how to fill out all of the spaces, and he gives plenty of room for the guys to breathe. But he's no slouch. I can tell you that now. He's right up there with those guys. And what can I say? Tony Levin is one of the greatest bass players of all time. I've always loved Tony Levin, and I love pretty much everything he's ever done, especially his jazz work as well. He's an amazing jazz bassist. But when he puts his prog head on, he can really turn it up a notch when he wants to. And he fits in so well with these guys. And what I love about Liquid Tension Experiments, there are no weak links whatsoever. Everyone is a world class musician, a fantastic player, and these four together, it's just magic. So, as always, all of the music is written and composed by the entire band. And we've got the opener, Acid Rain, which is excellent. By Accident is brilliant. 914 is great. Another Dimension is brilliant. When the Water Breaks, which is the longest track of the entire album, it's like nearly 17 minutes long. That's excellent. Chewbacca is great, which is like 13 minutes long. And then we got Liquid Dreams, which is like almost 10 minutes long. That's excellent. And then we got Hourglass, which is excellent as well. So what Liquid Tension Experiments concentrate on is obviously they're instrumental, but they opt for very long pieces. As I said, lots of improvisation, lots of jamming. So the solos are very long, So this is essentially a band that can just go where they want and do what they want. And it really shows in the music. Now, by this point, Jordan Rudess is now a full time member of Dream Theater. So this makes Liquid Tension Experiment more than just a side project. You can look at this as a Dream Theater spin off, but with a slightly varied, different lineup, but still great. But as I said, it's very much its own beast and very different in terms of the way the song structures are compared to Dream Theater. So, standout tracks for me are Acid Rain, Another Dimension, When the Water Breaks, Chewbacca, and Liquid Dreams. But top to bottom, a tremendous album and a great follow up to the self titled album, Liquid Tension Experiment. So there you have it. Liquid Tension Experiment 2, equally as good as the first album. Really like this one a lot. Great album. So we move on to the next album, and this one came out in 2021, and it's a double album, and this one is called Liquid Tension Experiment 3. So, Liquid Tension Experiment 3 marked the first time in over 22 years that Liquid Tension Experiment had made a brand new studio album. Now, after two studio albums, Liquid Tension Experiment as a band was completely shelved for good, and what would be for the foreseeable future, as Mike Portnoy would leave Dream Theater in 2010 and go on to play and co-found many great bands. He would play in bands such as Transatlantic, the Neil Morse Band, Metal Allegiance, Sons of Apollo, the Winery Dogs, and he would also guest with bands like Avenged Sevenfold, to name a few. He was out there playing with just about everyone. Tony Levin would rejoin Robert Fripp in a brand new King Crimson lineup, and they would go out and tour for a number of years. And Jordan Rudess and John Petrucci, of course, remained in Dream Theater, playing with Mike Portnoy's replacement behind the drum kit, the amazing Mike Mangini. And it seemed like on the surface that we wouldn't be getting any more Liquid Tension Experiments music. But yet here we are with a third album. These guys reunited and they sounded better than they ever did. They hadn't missed a single step. And when you compare the first two albums to the third album, all four musicians have evolved immensely. So, what started out as just a one off project, now Liquid Tension Experiment is a serious band. And what you've got here is four seasoned veterans who are very mature in their playing. And I like it. It's a really good album, Liquid Tension Experiment Free. Just listening to this, these guys hadn't missed a single step. It was like they just played the day before. Just true musical magic. Doesn't get any better than this. And musically, very enjoyable. Really liked it a lot. So most of the compositions are all written and composed by the entire band, with the exception of a cover version of a George Gershwin track. But top to bottom, this is an amazing album. So on disc one, we've got Hypersonic, which is excellent. Beating the Odds is great. Liquid Evolution, very good track. The Passage of Time is great. Chris and Kevin's Amazing Odyssey, love it, brilliant. And then we got the very enjoyable and entertaining cover version of George Gershwin's Rhapsody in Blue, which is like 13 minutes long. Very good track. Lots of great playing from all four musicians. Shades of Hope is great. And then we've got the closer, Key to the Imagination. Absolutely brilliant. And then on disc two, which is called A Night at the Improv, we've got Blink of an Eye, which is great. Solid Resolution Theory is great. View from the Mountaintop, very good. Your Beard is great. Yamon is great. Love it. Really love it a lot. I think I enjoyed disc two, maybe just a little bit more than disc one. Disc one is excellent, but I think I liked disc two maybe just a little bit more. I think there was some really good improv music here. So the standout tracks for me on disc one are Chris and Kevin's Amazing Odyssey, Rhapsody in Blue, Key to the Imagination, and Liquid Evolution. Very good stuff here. And the standout tracks for me on disc two are Solid Resolution Theory, Your Beard is Good, and Blink of an Eye. Great stuff. Great double album. If you like Liquid Tension Experiment 1 and 2, you'll enjoy number 3 just as much. It's a worthy sequel to the first two albums, and it really shows you just how strong the bond between Portnoy, Rudess, Levin, and Petrucci have as a band. To come back together after many years and put out this album, and as I said, no rust, didn't miss a single step, just musically a very enjoyable album. So there you have it. Liquid Tension Experiment Free, equally as good as the first two albums, and just a very enjoyable album. Lots of great instrumental music. Love it. So, which Liquid Tension Experiment album do I think is the best one? Well, like I said at the beginning, we've only got three studio albums. They're all good. No bad albums whatsoever in this trilogy. And after listening to all three albums, I liked all of them equally. And as I said, any of these albums could be a number one or an all time favourite. And you can't go wrong when you've got Mike Portnoy, John Petrucci, Jordan Rudess, and Tony Levin, four incredibly talented musicians and true heavyweights and masters of their respective instruments. But if I had to choose one, which I think is the best Liquid Tension Experiment album, I'm definitely going with Liquid Tension Experiment 3. I think this one was definitely the one I enjoyed listening to the most. And I'm not taking anything away from 1 and 2. They're great, but I think this album really made a huge impression on me the most. To come back together after all those years apart and make a third album and to come back stronger and better than ever and sounding great as well is a true testament to the bond that these four incredible musicians have. To come back and not miss a single beat doesn't get any better than that. And I really enjoyed the bonus disc the most. I thought musically it sounded great, and musically overall, I think this one was the strongest out of the trilogy. Not taking anything away from one and two, very enjoyable, but I think I enjoyed the third one maybe just a little bit more. And now that Mike Portnoy is back in Dream Theater full time, who knows? Maybe we might get Liquid Tension Experiment 4. You never know. Hopefully, they won't leave it for too long because we waited 20 plus years for the third one. So, hopefully, we won't have to wait too long for number 4. So, fingers crossed. So, there you have it. Liquid Tension Experiment 3. For my money, the best Liquid Tension album out of the trilogy. Fantastic album. So that's going to be it from me. I'm going to wrap this up now. What's your favourite Liquid Tension Experiment album? Is it one, two, or three? There's no right or wrong answer. We all have our favourite albums. You know what to do, guys. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, leave your thoughts and comments down below, and I will see all of you next time for another edition of the Progressive Rock and Metal album review series. So until next time, take care, everybody, and stay safe. And once again, as always, much appreciated. Thanks for listening.